Welcome to PopNerdery. This is episode 21. PopNerdery is the show that is nerdier than owning a coffee table book about coffee tables. PopNerdery is a
place...
That
feels like a direct shot.
Just shots fired right across the bow.
Right out of the gate.
This is a place, PopNerdery is a place where you're allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you got to have more than just a little bit to say. First, tonight we're going to catch up on the week in nerd news. Then we're going to, tonight we're actually going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the life and times of one Gene Wilder. We're going to pour one out. And then we're going to give our pop culture recommendations. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. My name is Dave. I'm your host for the night, while Brent is stuck in a Sarlacc pit. With me, as always, is my good friend, Topher.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing, Toph?
PopNerdery's resident and your favorite rapper's favorite blogger and literary critic.
There you go.
So we got a couple different ways to follow us here at the PopNerderies. The first way is on Twitter, at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Comment on things as they happen, generally subtweet one another. And this week it was all about having sad X-Men feels, which just felt like this week would never fucking stop. So Thanks this week. This week can go to hell. You got two different ways to listen to the show. First is fire up iTunes, jump over to the podcast section, type PopNerdery into that old search box. You can find us. You can subscribe, rate, review, leave lovely comments, subscribe your friends, your moms, set up dummy accounts for your pets. You know, just do your part. That's all I'm asking. Do your part. The second way is to find and murder your Cylon double. And at the moment that happens, Dave Foltz will come to your house, podcast live for you over your shoulder.
That's how it works. That is how it works. All right, Topher. There was, like you mentioned, there was some sad stuff going on this week. The saddest thing of all is that legendary actor and comedic icon Gene Wilder died this week at 83. Gene Wilder is a man who has loomed large in all of our childhoods. So we're going to take a little while in our B segment this week to talk about our favorite movies of his. But do you have something quick you want to say about Gene Wilder before I kind of move on to other sad news?
No, I need to put more whiskey in me before I'm going to be able to do this. So let's just move on to the next one.
There we go. You alluded to X-Men. There was a lot of sad X-Men news this week. We got further from a Gambit movie, which I'm not sure that I want, but I know that's a big thing for you and Brent. You guys are big fans of the Gambit.
I really liked Gambit from the animated series and from the books, obviously. But now it's less that I even just really feel like I need a Gambit movie. But the fact that he's been intentionally left out of what is like 9 different X-Men properties at this point feels really insulting.
Yeah, and that the one version that we have is Friday Night Lights guy.
No, yeah, I don't even acknowledge that, quite frankly. So to me now it's just more of a moral crusade to finally give me some Gambit.
Yeah, it is. Gambit is that character where, like, I personally was never a huge fan, but I know like 10 people who are like, you know who was the coolest one? It was Gambit, because he was always trying to get laid, and he played poker a lot, I guess.
Yeah, played cards, had a fun accent, and got a lot of the good... I mean, he's up there with Wolverine in terms of getting catchy things to say.
Oh, yeah. He did have... After Wolverine, had the best one-liners in the animated series.
What's not to like?
So the bad news about Gambit is we're a little bit further away because it lost its director. This movie lost its director, so Channing Tate's Tatey Chan Chans is going to have to find himself a new director for this thing. And it is kind of a shame that the only version of this character that we have is in a movie that we've all disavowed. We don't talk about that movie. Ryan Reynolds hated that movie so much that he essentially forced 20th Century Fox to make Deadpool. So I don't think, if he doesn't acknowledge that, I don't think we have to either. Yeah, the other X-Men stuff that was going on this week is they gave us some more information on Legion, which I don't really know a whole lot about Legion, like the source material. It was never something that I read. But apparently they're going to try to tie the Legion mythos or the Legion universe into the Fox X-Men universe, and have, Bryan Singer and Jeff Loeb kind of coordinate, I guess, to make this a thing. It's the news story I saw on CBR this week said that Legion's going to explore untold X-Men stories. And I don't know exactly what that means. There are thousands of untold X-Men stories, but if it's anything like what the MCU does with their network TV, because this Legion show is supposed to be on Fox, there's not going to be any sort of crossover. Because like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the only crossover really is Phil Coulson. He's the only one who leapt from one to the other. Otherwise, it's really kind of separated, unless you want to count Agent Carter. But that I don't think that's on TV anymore.
No, and I mean honestly, if we look at how well Fox treated the Batman universe with Gotham, I just have nothing but high hopes here for this X-Men series, right? Like, what could possibly go wrong with this? Because they're untold Batman stories aplenty, and boy, Gotham's just really doing all of them justice.
Yeah, I think the big problem with superheroes on TV is when you decide to use unrecognizable superheroes on TV. Because you have Gotham, where there's no Batman, right, which makes no fucking sense. You have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there's no Avengers. Right. There's not even, like, they won't even call people Avengers. They don't even use, like, B-level Avengers. Like, we can't even get, like, Wonder Man on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, he's right out.
So, and then we're going to have this Legion show where we're not going to have any X-Men that anyone knows.
I mean, we might get Morph.
Morph would be cool.
Like, honestly, I think that's the tier of X-Men to which I think we're pulling in here.
Yeah, and I don't think it's because they can't pay for special effects, because look at The Flash and look at Arrow and look at Supergirl. They have money for effects on TV now.
Yeah, and it looks good. Flash had Gorilla Grodd and a giant walking, talking shark. Like, you can't tell me there's not shark. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I heard this.
There's money there.
This season on The Flash, they're going to actually go to Gorilla City.
Oh, God, yes.
The Flash is so fucking good. It's insane to me that it's almost as if Fox with this Legion show, and even Marvel, who screws this thing up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I can't, that show's difficult for me to get through. Yeah. It's almost as if they realize, man, it would really be way too hard for us to plan this so that they can intersect correctly.
Yes.
So we're just not going to do it.
Yeah. I think that's the long and the short of it, is simply that they looked at it and went, this would be really, really difficult to coordinate with at any given time, 3 different Marvel properties that are running. So we're just going to leave these 2 things separate, which is fine with me. I don't really care. But, please don't act like it's a tie-in to that universe. And I have real questions about how they're going to do this with X-Men then.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess this is the one area where we can look at WB and think that they got it right, because they don't get their DC Extended Universe chocolate in my Flash peanut butter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, vaguely, but yes, I think so.
Not that in order for that reference to work, you have to know that I'm not a big chocolate guy. So get your damn DCEU out of my CW shows.
You now know where Dave stands on this matter. Write that down.
So that's kind of how we feel about X-Men. It was not a great week for X-Men on TV and movies news. The X-Men have really been getting kicked around quite a bit lately, because there's not a whole lot of good X-Men stuff going on in the comics right now either.
No.
They know that Fox is going to own X-Men essentially in perpetuity, so Marvel's not really doing much with it. I guess if you want to go read some good X-Men stories, you're going to have to go way back.
Yeah.
Get way, way back.
You're going to have to go get a trade.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, speaking of the DC Extended Universe, I was complaining about them on Twitter this week, telling them to take a page out of the Deadpool book and get some subject matter experts on set for some of their movies, and maybe they wouldn't turn out so Zack Snydery. And then Ben Affleck had to go and prove me wrong that they fucking know what they're doing, because he posted some surprise footage of Deathstroke on the internet. It just happened. There was nobody was even talking about Deathstroke. This wasn't even like a rumor. This wasn't even a thing. Deathstroke is not new to us. We've seen him on Arrow in live action, but I'm excited to see Deathstroke as, with the rumor now is that he's going to be the main villain of the Batman solo movie.
And thank Jesus for a villain that's not entirely CGI.
Yeah.
Not another just weird blobby alien thing or something else. Like, we actually have a bad guy.
I agree. We got our Zod, which was a lot of CGI, but they fucked that movie up for other reasons in Man of Steel. And then we had our Doomsday in our Batman v Superman, and we're gonna get Steppenwolf, I guess, in Justice League. Even though Doomsday's a better villain, Doomsday's a better DC Comics villain than Steppenwolf. I don't even know who Steppenwolf is up until he shows up in that deleted scene.
Yes, pretty much.
So you're right. It will be nice to have a human character. You really can't do another one of these, just CGI soup characters in a Batman movie. It just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work in any movie.
I'm also happy that we're going to get a non-Joker villain, like a non-Joker, non-Two-Face, non-Riddler villain in a Batman movie.
None of the big four.
Yeah, because we've seen them before in the movies.
Yeah.
We've had iterations of that, and we've had Deathstroke a little bit on Arrow, but I think Deathstroke v Batman is going to be much more fun to watch than Batman v Superman.
Yeah, I'd rather watch that 10 times out of 10. So
the things that we know about this Batman solo movie is that Deathstroke will be in it, most likely as the main antagonist. Ben Affleck wants to have a bunch of the Rogues Gallery in it. So maybe not in major roles, but in spots where you're going to see it. So I'm guessing my version of what this looks like is Batman and Deathstroke disagree on how to stop these villains. Deathstroke is an assassin, and we just get like Daredevil season 2 as a Batman solo movie.
I'd be fine with that.
I think that sounds like it would make the most sense based on the information we have right now, which is not terrible. Yeah.
No, that sounds more promising than a lot of the other news that's coming out from other franchises. So, yeah, so far I'm still highly optimistic about this.
Yeah. They did say that Deathstroke is going to show up in Justice League, but I don't know. When you have a Superman and you have a Flash, I don't know how much Deathstroke is going to be able to do.
And that's what led me to think that maybe the Rogues Gallery comes in towards the end of this, and that's the jump off to a Justice League kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
That's the only, because him as a prolonged villain, I don't know.
Yeah,
I got questions.
Maybe there will be a kind of a tease of each of the heroes and kind of like what they're up to, and maybe you see Deathstroke in a Batman sequence or something like that.
I could see that.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but the finale of The Night Of was this week. The Night Of is an HBO series. It was a limited 8-episode series, originally envisioned as a James Gandolfini thing. James Gandolfini was originally in the John Turturro role, and then he passed, sadly. So John Turturro steps in. Big shoes, big sandals to fill, if you will, if you've seen some of The Night Of. But the finale was this week. It's kind of if Law and Order had 8 episodes to tell their story and could do so, in an R-rated fashion, what would it be? And it really kind of got me for the first couple episodes, and then I faded a little bit on it. I know that you kind of had a similar experience, right?
Yeah, I was super hooked by the first 2 episodes. The third one, I kind of went, all right, so this is an off one, but we'll pick right back up. And I think I've seen the 4th episode as well, which is the same as the 3rd, and it really lost steam on it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spoil it for you because I feel like at some point you're going to finish it.
I will.
But it really is like a process story. There is a plot to it. There is a beginning, middle, and end. They do kind of wrap things up toward the end, but it's more. It really does feel like it's more about the journey. Like they wanted to show what it was like for someone to get eaten up and spat back out by the criminal justice system.
Yes.
And I think if you look at it that way, it was powerful. But as viewers of TV, we're not always, we're not trained to look for process.
Yeah, and I was happy to do that. Like I said, there are a lot that I liked about those first 2 episodes. Super captivating. Without putting any spoilers in there's some revelations that come about in the 3rd, or I guess giant turns, I kind of felt like. Yeah. That also left me less than enthused about it. Yeah. And also, there's a lot of stuff about feet in there.
There is a lot of stuff about feet.
It's a necessary character development device, but
It's almost as if Buffalo Bills head coach Rex Ryan directed this damn thing.
Kind of. It's a little off-putting, quite frankly. So, yeah. Those two things coupled together were enough to make me kind of just, you know what, I'll back burner this. I do want to finish it, but it stopped being the pressing, like, must-see TV I thought it was going to be, and has definitely trailed off.
Yeah, it really was one of those things where it was one of those things where it was 8 episodes, and I had already made it through 5. So I was like, oh, man, I got to finish this thing. I got to just muscle through and get up and, get through it. And you know what? We talk all the time on here about how format matters almost above all when you're making TV. If it's 8 episodes, I'm going to muscle through because I need to finish it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the one thing that I've got in my back pocket is knowing that I only have 4 episodes left to go. So I don't know. I'm hoping that something gets me back in there to do it. In reality, it'll be the dearth of television coming up.
Yeah, when you go into that lull while you're still waiting for Game of Thrones to come back.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, I do have one more thing that I kept seeing trailers for as I was finishing the night of. I kept seeing these trailers for Westworld that I think are going to fill the Game of Thrones size hole that is left in all of our TV viewing schedules. There was a new trailer that was dropped for it this week, like a story trailer. Everything I had seen before that was just like evocative visual teasers. But there was actually like a story-based or plot-based trailer. And I have never seen the old movie. I never I watched the 1973 Westworld movie. This thing looks like Game of Thrones quality if you were telling like a Blade Runner Deadwood story, which I am so down for.
Yeah, it looks like Deadwood and Ex Machina had a baby.
Totally.
We got Westworld.
It totally is. Like everything intriguing about Ex Machina, like that, the isolation and the cold, kind of cold setting, cold exterior, and then you mix that with a Western. I don't know. It looks really, really good. The talent that they have on this show is insane. It stars Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris and Evan Rachel Wood and it's just one of those. Yeah, where like the IMDb, you're like, they must have made a mistake. Like,
what 3 shows were you trying to list people for? Because there's no way all of you are in the same show,
right? It's one of those where like they can only really do that on HBO. Netflix makes good stuff, but HBO is the place where it's going to look beautiful and the budget will be unlimited, and everyone will sign on just to be a part of the next Game of Thrones or the next,
basically,
The Wire or Deadwood or whatever. I didn't know. We right before we jumped on here, Topher and I were talking. I asked Topher, "Hey, did you ever read Westworld?" Because I was this was a pop culture blind spot for me. I thought this was a Michael Crichton book. Apparently, the original was a movie that was written and directed by Michael Crichton. This really hits me as one of those things where they had a really cool vision for it in 1973, but just didn't have the ability to execute on that vision. And now they are going to try to make that right.
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit like someone saw Fury Road and went, oh, so if Mad Max can look cool now, maybe there's some other stuff that we can try that has other interesting premises. So exactly. I'm hopeful. I'm put me down in the hopeful category.
Exactly. And the cool thing about an HBO series is that we are going to get, like I said before, an unlimited budget, but we're going to get 8 episodes a season to dive into it, and they're going to have time to tell the story that they want to tell.
This will go for 8 seasons if it wants to.
Oh yeah. Just based on the trailer, it looked like they were searching out, in a season and a half, Game of Thrones is going to be gone. What's the next thing that everybody's talking about on Monday morning? Looks like what this was. So, all right. That's going to wrap up kind of what had us talking this week. We are going to take a quick break, and then we are going to talk all about Gene Wilder. We're going to give the man his due, give him some time, and talk through some of our favorite Gene Wilder movies, Stick around. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Go to popnerdery.com/audible and sign up for a free trial to support the show and get hours of entertainment.
Audible is perfect for people who don't like to read words and instead want to hear words.
Exactly, Toph. With your Audible free trial, you get 2 free audiobooks to start. When the trial ends, you get 1 audiobook a month for $14.95 a month. You also receive 30% off the price of every additional audiobook that you purchase. You can cancel at any time, and unlike Netflix, you get to keep your books even when you cancel.
That sounds like a better deal than the time that cop caught me listening to 50 Shades of Grey that I got from Audible and let me off with a warning as soon as I promised to put my pants back on.
That's right, listeners. Go to popnerdery.com/audible to sign up for your free trial and then tell your friends. That way they can share in your audiobook goodness.
Welcome back to Pop Nerdery. This week, normally in our B section, we take a deep dive into a topic that we want to get real nerdy about. Really just snuggle on in there like a mutating virus deep within your immune system. This week, however, we're really just going to compose an audio love letter to Gene Wilder. A lot of the times when you hear a beloved actor dies, you hear that he was a jack of all trades, a Renaissance man, whatever else. Gene Wilder, in addition to being one of the funniest human beings and actors on Earth, was also at one point in his life a paramedic, a limousine driver, and a fencing instructor.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I did not know about any of those things. That's amazing.
Yeah. Don't come talk to me about your Renaissance man who did, movies and TV and plays. Like, get the fuck out of here. Gene Wilder was a fencing instructor. Your point is moved.
Awesome.
So we want to take some time here in the B segment to basically just discuss how much we loved Gene Wilder in all of the various projects he was in and is so widely renowned for. All Dave, right. you wanna start us off with one of your favorites?
Yeah, I do want to start off. I want to start off with the story that I heard about him this week that I found most interesting, and then I'll kind of talk about some movies. But I was kind of, whenever this sort of thing happens, you dive onto Twitter, you dive onto, online to try and find reactions from the people who knew him best, right? Or people who worked with him, or people, people who would have more information than I do, right? So yeah. I went looking for people in comedy. I went looking for Mel Brooks. And I went looking for, people like that who could tell me a little bit more about, why outside of, he is Willy Wonka and he was in Blazing Saddles and he was in The Producers, why Gene Wilder matters. And I think the thing that you never really noticed when he was on screen, but that Mel Brooks pointed out, is that he was one of the most generous comedic actors that you could ever have, right? He had to share the screen a number of times with Richard Pryor. He had to share the screen a number of times with Mel Brooks. And those are people who just eat up the screen, right? They take up all the space. So to be a guy like Gene Wilder who has to get his laughs in dribs and drabs and has to get his laughs when those guys take a breath, or has to get his laughs as the straight man to those guys, I think that's something that it flew totally under the radar as I was thinking about him. My formative Gene Wilder experience is Willy Wonka. It's the first movie that I saw, probably because it was the first movie of his that was appropriate for me to see.
Probably, yeah.
But I saw Willy Wonka before my mom read the Roald Dahl book to me. Mm-hmm. So he was Willy Wonka. And then when I finally read the book, or finally had the book read to me, I was like, that doesn't really sound like the movie I watched. It's not quite the same. Where's the songs, and where's the front flip with the cane when he walks out? That's the stuff that when someone can take something that's already a classic piece of art and elevate it to the point where that's the only one I think about. Yeah. And elevate it to the point where when they try to redo it, it looks like dog shit in comparison. Yeah. When you watch that movie and you watch the Johnny Depp version, CGI and set design and all, the movie from 1971 sticks up or holds up.
It looks better.
Yeah, it looks better. It is better. Yeah. There's There's that weird minute where they're on the boat that I never really understood when I was a kid.
No, still doesn't make sense.
Still don't really get it.
No.
But that movie holds up.
Oh, it's fantastic. That whole scene is just basically an LSD flashback, as far as I'm concerned.
It's exactly. It was like I don't know if it was Gene Wilder or if it was somebody else in the production, but it really is like they were like, you know what? As we're writing this thing, let's just do a lot of drugs and see what happens. We'll write one scene and then we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what.
We're gonna have the whole visual effects department just high out their asses on acid all the time. One of
the other anecdotes that I heard this week was that front flip that happens when you first see Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka in that movie. That was all him.
Yeah,
that was not written into a script. That was on the day of filming, or on the day that he was offered the role. He read the script and said, "I'll take the part, but on one condition. When he walks in, I want to do this thing. I want to do this physical gag." And when asked why, it was just because people would never expect it, and it would make people smile. Like that sort of thing. Like he just wanted to bring joy to people, which is like he knew that was a visual thing that would work. And I'll take the role, but you got to let me do this thing.
And I think it was part of, they sent the costume over to him and he had notes on it. Like before anything else was just like, this is fine. And then included things like, I want to do this with it. I want to we're going to shrink the hat by 2 inches was one of the things. Cause I don't want to be that much taller than the kids. Cause it would, have to skew the way the camera's positioned and take them out of the shot or shoot up at him. Yeah. And the whole thing is all because from that time on, no one knows if I'm lying or telling the truth.
Yeah.
And that just summed up the beauty of that movie from the jump in a letter that was sent months before he probably went into production at all.
And that is perfect when you can, as a performer, boil down an entire story to a physical act with no words. Mm-hmm. Which is...
Yeah, I've seen sketches of the character design, and I now can so entirely comprise the role in its entirety that I can set the entire tone for the movie by doing this one thing at the beginning part.
Yeah, with no words,
that's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And going back to something that I want to circle around to something you said. Just how impressive is that? Willy, he's incredible in Willy Wonka, and there's kind of an ensemble cast, but he runs that show. That's his movie, and clearly, as the anecdote we just talked about, like he owned that character and set the tone for everything. But then it was also just as good, in duos, with a Clavon Little in Blazing Saddles, or obviously with Richard Pryor and everything else. I think it takes a ridiculous, kind of a mind to be able to do both kinds of comedy successfully. There are a lot of people who can do one or the other, but not only that, but he could also do serious and do actual, he's best known as a comedic actor, but that dude could carry a serious scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, so after Willy Wonka, I think the next movie that I was allowed to see was probably Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, my father was a great devotee of Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, both. So I think, like you, Young Frankenstein was next, and then I saw very poorly edited pieces of Blazing Saddles, where my dad would conversely invite me into the room and then kick me back out again, depending on where it was in the movie. So I actually saw a lot of the jokes in Blazing Saddles without ever having seen them in contiguous order long before I was allowed to actually sit and watch the entirety of that movie.
Yeah, my dad, I had 3, I have a brother and 2 stepbrothers, and we were all within like 3 years of each other, age-wise. So my dad knew that the one joke that would land with all of us, and it would definitely land, was the beans scene, the campfire fart scene. That's a movie where the campfire fart scene and all the Mongo stuff lands where Mongo, he punches the horse. Yes. That stuff lands with a kid. Mm-hmm. The Gene Wilder stuff is the stuff that you don't get until later. It's not like it's way over your head, but it's subtle. The comedy in that is subtle, and it's stuff that you don't. I never really appreciated that movie until I saw it when I was I don't know,
years
probably
later,
moving on into college, right? Really get all the jokes in that movie and what they're trying to accomplish.
I really believe that I can find any other of my kindred nerd spirits in this world where all I have to do is say, yeah, but I shoot with this hand, and bring up the wobbly hand, and if the other person laughs and does it, then it's like our secret handshake. That's all I have to say. Steady as a rock, but I shoot with this one.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that.
I think the next Gene Wilder movie I saw and really loved was The Frisco Kid, which still to this day has a special place in my heart. So I think that takes us into the Richard Pryor trilogy, of which my favorite is far and away Stir Crazy.
Yeah, I love the way those two play off each other.
It's such a dynamic, and like you were saying earlier, Gene Wilder had the incredible ability to both be straight man as well as the one who delivered the punchline, and seamlessly fall back and forth between those roles. He never felt like the second on the screen. Instead, they just had incredible timing together, certainly. But Gene Wilder's ability to just kind of weave in and out of those two roles is, I mean, it's funny, and the movie is delightful and it's great. But honestly, it's a masterclass in how to do comedy. Just watching the two of them go at it together.
Yeah, he really is. He really is the master of Pryor's going to talk, Pryor's going to talk, Pryor's going to talk, and I'm going to throw in 3 words. And those 3 words are going to be the funniest 3 words, but you're going to have to talk about it for a second.
Rush. It's going to take a half a second, and then you're just going to be wrecked.
Yeah, absolutely. The crazy thing to me is how bunched up his filmography is.
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles came out in the same year.
Wow.
I don't think there are 2 comedies that are that good that have come out in the last 3 years.
Let alone one coming from the same actor. Jeez Louise.
Right. And I mean, and they're both Mel Brooks films, so it does really help that he became, one of Mel Brooks's favorite guys.
Yeah.
But holy shit, those 2 movies came out in the same year.
That's I wouldn't have believed that had I not just looked at it on Wikipedia. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a Hollywood thing, that Hollywood greenlit more comedies and gave money to guys like Mel Brooks to make whatever he wanted, or do you think that's there are no more Gene Wilders?
I'm afraid it's the latter. I'd like to hope that it's the other one, but I don't know. I don't think that Blazing Saddles was particularly well received when it came out, which is unsurprising. In 1974, a lot of, it still holds up today. A lot of those jokes are still funny because we still are a horribly backwards racist society, which is kind of depressing. But in 1974, I'd like to think even more so. So it's not really surprising that a movie, starring a black gentleman directed by a Jewish gentleman starring another Jewish gentleman wasn't, maybe widely received in white America.
In 1974.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of what they did in those movies was a lot of meta dissection of genre.
Oh yeah.
Which wasn't real big in 1974, right? They weren't doing parody like a Naked Gun film. They were doing, I am going to dissect this genre for you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna straight up point out the things that the things that are idiosyncratic about a Western, or things that are idiosyncratic about a monster movie. And I'm going to
when he literally breaks the 4th wall to be in a riot on set at Warner Brothers, a literal destruction of the 4th wall. Like that, and stuff like that. Then now it kind of feels, I don't want to say tired, but I start to get a little hesitant. Like House of Cards, we talked about a long time ago, how Frank talking directly at the camera was a little unnerving at first,
right? Because
you've seen it; it's been done. When this movie happens, and they not only just talk straight to camera a lot of the time at various, but then they literally burst through the set's walls to fight a musical cast production. That's way ahead of its time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what makes it work is that Gene Wilder had a lot of the same sensibilities as Mel Brooks, but he was able to do it on a different wavelength, if that makes sense. Mel Brooks is always a lot more showy and a lot more yelly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas Wilder was able to take Mel Brooks' words and say them in a non-Mel Brooks way to drive the point home even more.
Yeah, I mean, in Blazing Saddles, he's the heart of the movie, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He doesn't get to be front billing. He's playing the sidekick, the washed-up sidekick at that. But, I mean, he's the entirety of the heart of that movie, while everyone else is kind of just going bonkers around him.
Yeah.
And I think he does the same thing to a lesser extent, even in Young Frankenstein, where, you know, in that one he's carrying it, again, an ensemble, but he's carrying that both, you know, sometimes quasi-dramatically when they pretend that they want it to be that, but then also bringing, you know, humor back and forth. You fall in love with that character pretty quickly, even though he's meant to not really be particularly well liked at the start of it.
Yeah. I think the saddest thing about the whole thing is that over the last couple of years, I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but he was struggling with Alzheimer's over the last couple of years. And that's a disease that there's absolutely no comedy in. So for a guy who lived his whole life, you know, making people happy and cracking jokes and being the, you know, that's a real tough thing. And I think that the one kind of silver lining in you know, a guy like that passing is that with his body of work, he has so many things that you can go to be, like you said, he's the heart of Blazing Saddles, and he's the center of Young Frankenstein. But when I saw his obituary on the PBS NewsHour last night, they immediately were able to cut to that clip of him singing, singing that first big number. Yes, Pure Imagination, that first big number in Willy Wonka. That is the perfect obituary.
It really is, yeah. And you know, on one hand, I really respect him, especially for kind of taking a step back from acting and doing other things with his talents, which is great. You know, would I have liked to add another 10 Gene Wilder movies? Absolutely. Yeah. Is there a chance that at some point some of those 10 weren't going to be good? Probably. So on one hand, you know, you may not love Sunday Lovers or Hanky Panky as much as Stir Crazy, but they're still good and inherently watchable. So, you know, we don't have any dogs anywhere in there. So, yeah.
I mean, is it better to burn out or fade away? That like endless argument. I think that the great thing for me is that I will always have, you know, we talk about this all the time where there were those, you know, 10 to 12 VHS tapes that you watched over and over and over again. Gene Wilder was in 3 of mine, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Willy Wonka. He was in like 3 of my 12. So that's one of those guys that endless respect for a guy who is endlessly watchable. As he was.
My dad got to share that with me. I'm almost to the point now I can share Willy Wonka with my kid. He's got an attention span long enough for that. And then truly just to know, because with Gene Wilder just produces some of the most, and is in some of the most quotable movies. You know, again, like I said, I can pretty much find someone that I will be able to have a conversation with if they can endlessly quote Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Stir Crazy. I mean, to this point, we literally, my coworkers and I will walk into big meetings doing You Better Get Bad, like shuffle dance from Stir Crazy. Better get bad. Don't take no shit. We're bad.
The other thing that I hadn't thought about, because I mean, obviously people were being respectful over the last couple of days, but I've seen Gene Wilder's face on the internet a lot over the last couple of years because of the Willy Wonka meme.
Condescending Wonka.
The fucking Wonka meme. I'm not wild about like memeifying people who have giant bodies of work and we turn them into one image.
Who have real talent.
But you know what? Every time I saw it, I was like, that was a shitty joke that they did in that meme. But you know what? Willy Wonka was great.
But I really like Gene Wilder. That's without a doubt. So if nothing else, I got to see more Gene Wilder on the internet than less, and that can't be a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah, so we're going to do recommendations in a minute, but we're not going to recommend every Gene Wilder movie, but go fucking watch them.
Yeah, I mean, we are. Well, I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to make a slight recommendation for some of the lesser-known stuff out there. If you love Gene Wilder and you've never seen Quackster Fortune has a cousin in the Bronx, which is a relatively low-budget early in his career, right before he did Willy Wonka. But it is literally his job is to walk around and pick up shit. So, you know, right there, like the presence is already going good places. Like I said, the Frisco Kid, while better received, I feel like later is still not one of his biggest and best known. And the last one that I really love is The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother, which you can already deduce he's not, but it's amazing, and you're gonna love it. So go celebrate the best of all things, Gene Wilder certainly, but take some flyers on some stuff you haven't seen before, because it has Gene Wilder in it, you're really not going to be disappointed.
It'll be worth it. At worst, you're going to get that man making some jokes. And I did want to pass along a quick message from our absent brother here. He did say that he's sure that he would agree with everything we had to say about Gene Wilder, and that during his childhood, he was under the impression that all movies either starred Gene Wilder or Harrison Ford. So,
God, what a world that would have been to live in.
I know, right?
My only regret is that isn't real.
I was thinking back to Mel Brooks movies that I like that don't star Gene Wilder, and I guess my favorite would have been Spaceballs.
Spaceballs?
So I was doing this mental exercise where I was trying to replace roles in Spaceballs with Gene Wilder and trying to figure out which ones he would have been funnier in.
Yeah.
I think that I would have loved to see him as President Scroob, and you leave Mel Brooks just as Yogurt.
I think so. Yeah, that would have been good. Honestly, I'm such a fan of Gene Wilder's that it's almost like my obsession with Idris Elba, where I will replace anyone with Idris Elba. I will replace virtually anyone with Gene Wilder and would be excited about it.
Could you imagine if in the Batman solo movie we had Gene Wilder as the Riddler?
And Idris Elba as Batman.
If only we were in power.
I am in no way wishing any ill on Mr. Elba, but when he dies, I guarantee you that movie's getting made in heaven. I fucking guarantee you that movie's getting made.
I love it.
So with that, we're going to sadly leave this topic, if not Mr. Wilder, behind. We're going to be back with some recommendations and try to, I don't know, we're going to interject some levity in here eventually. I guess so. This isn't going to end on a down note. I make you that promise.
Today's show is brought to you by Amazon. Go to popnerdery.com/Amazon and shop as you normally would to get the same Amazon you know and love while you support the show.
You know, like that toilet paper autofill option that you've signed up for in Amazon? Like that, Dave?
Yes, exactly like that, Brent. Pop Nerdery is part of the Amazon Associates program. What that means is that you get the same selection and same low prices of the Amazon you know and love. And if you're a Prime member, you get the same Prime 2-day shipping that you would normally get. And you get to support the show. That's it. It's pretty easy, Brent.
It does sound easy. Kind of like how to, open a pudding pop and just eat it.
So listeners, bookmark popnerdery.com/Amazon on your favorite browser today. And remember to click that shit every time you shop.
Okay, Dave.
Welcome back to Pop Nerdery. We have poured one out for Gene Wilder. We've talked about this week in Nerd. Right now, we're going to make some pop culture recommendations, and then we're going to tuck you into your beds and tell you not to let the bed bugs bite.
Give you a smooch on the forehead.
Last week, I was very gracious and let Topher go first. This week, I'm too excited, so I'm going to say, hold your horses, Mr. Howden. My recommendation this week is a Topher Howden recommendation for sure, because it's a coffee table book.
Fuck yes. You know how I feel about having naked coffee tables.
Get ready. This one I picked up because it went on Lightning Deal on Amazon. So I do not recommend paying full price for almost anything, but especially not this book. It is a $50 coffee table book. It is from DK Publishing, just like your Star Wars Year by Year.
Friends at DK Publishing. Shout out to DK.
I really feel like if we just talk about enough coffee table books, they're going to have to send us one, right?
I'm trying really hard. I mean, I'm considering buying another coffee table just to get more coffee table books.
This one is Marvel Comics 75 Years of Cover Art. This is a huge book. So it is the perfect way to display insanely good art. And cover art is usually the most ostentatious, usually the art that is either the most symbolic or tells the best story. So you can get a lot just from skimming through these pages. What they do is they break it up into eras. So they go Silver Age, Golden Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age, in order to break it up. And they break it up by book, so either character or team, so that way you can see kind of some of the evolution during each era under each artist, which is awesome. This book goes on Lightning Deal on Amazon frequently, so it's $50 full price. I bought it for $13 this week, Toph.
Son of a bitch.
I know, and I passed it on to Topher. I sent him a link, and by the time he got there, it was back up to like 28.
Like some idiot, I was doing my job for some reason.
I know what a
moron!
I sent it to you while I was in a meeting. That's when I bought it.
That's listen. I would say your time was better served purchasing that thing because it looks gorgeous.
It's beautiful, and they do a really nice job in here of like breaking out. One, the most iconic covers, so stuff that you would have seen as wall books at your comic book shop, and like first appearances of characters and stuff like that. Ooh, so just like thumbing through it, I have the real iconic first Punisher issue of Spider-Man, the first appearance of Punisher and Spider-Man. I've got a Man-Thing. I've got all kinds of Avengers and X-Men in here. And they do a really nice job of giving you huge splash pages. So this large format of a book, it's probably, 14 inches by 8 inches, this book. They don't just give you the covers. If it is going to look better in the book, the editors have decided to give you like a full 2-page spread of the Hulk's face.
God, delicious.
Just looking really awesome. It is totally worth the money for you to pick it up and put it on your table. Most of the coffee table books that we talk about on this show are also very dense with information. Mm-hmm. This one is art. So it really is like if you want to show somebody why this medium is an art form, there's nothing better than showing them 75 years of Marvel cover art.
Yeah, I like everything about that.
What do you got for me this week, Toph?
So mine is going to be something that this is definitely for Dave. A recommendation in the movie, documentary genre.
Oh boy!
I know it's a film from 1975 called "The Man Who Skied Down Everest," which is about a Japanese daredevil Yuichiro Miura's attempt to ski down Everest. And that's something that
Hold on, Toph. It's called The Man Who Skied Down Everest, and you said attempt. I feel like I'm in for some bad news here.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to climb Everest. A lot of people die trying to climb Everest, and so this dude looks at it and goes, I really just kind of want to climb it to ski down it. Which sounds ostentatious all in itself, but then you consider that Everest is really hard to climb because it basically just kind of goes up. So skiing down it is almost near impossibility. And spoiler alert, at one point he's skiing down with an actual drag racer drag chute behind him because it would take off otherwise. The whole thing is awesome. It's done really well. It's if you like and you've seen Man on Wire, this is a very kind of similar Man on Wire discussion of how something like this ostentatious can occur. The Man Who Skied Down Everest, 1975, directed by Lawrence Schiller and Bruce Nisnick, I believe. Mm-hmm. Apologies to Bruce if I mispronounced his last name. It's a fascinating look at how you can do something ridiculous like walk between the two towers or, attempt to ski down Mount Everest.
I really love documentaries that get that granular. That are like, listen, you're not going to do this, but you want to hear about somebody crazy enough to try?
Yeah, and I mean, there are no spoilers to this. This is literally in the film's description on the cover. Several members of his climbing team die before they even get there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so just that really just sets the tone for what this dude is attempting to do. So it was fascinating. Someone I spent a lot of time reading about attempting to summit Everest. If you liked Into Thin Air, this kind of that gives you some context for how ridiculous it is to even say the word ski down Everest.
Absolutely. Toph, we were very generous with our recommendations today. I did one for you. You did one for me. This is,
the spirit of PopNerdery.
I think we really killed it here tonight.
We're here to give and to love, to send love, give love, take love.
And with that, it kind of brings us to the end of the show. So thank you guys for listening. As a reminder, please kind of join us on Twitter, especially at PopNerdery, and then go to iTunes. So if you rate and review the show, it kind of helps with rankings on iTunes, visibility on iTunes, which means more people can find and listen to the show. So go ahead, rate, review on iTunes. If you have a friend who is also a nerd, go and tell them about the show, because we'd love to kind of start a conversation. That's the whole point. So
do a thing for a friend.
If you'd like to find me on Twitter, typically I tweet as the show at PopNerdery. Toph lately has also been tweeting as the show at PopNerdery to kind of spur on that conversation. You can find me personally at Dave Foltz and Topher.
At the Hospital Ball, and I'm going to apologize because it's football season.
Uh-oh. Mm-hmm. It's football season and football season.
And football season. All three of them. Boom, boom,
All
boom.
three of them.
So, at the Hospital Ball, but sorry in advance.
Sorry. If you want to hear Topher talk about a Big Ten team that is almost as useless and irrelevant as mine, we went to Indiana and Illinois respectively.
Yeah.
So he's a Hoosier. I'm an Illini because that's a thing.
Because a Hoosier is a thing as well.
Neither one of our football teams matter very much, but we care about them deeply.
And we're going to join the League of Useless Mascots. It's going to be amazing. We might go supervillain. You don't know.
Maybe there's some crossover. We can get the jocks to listen to our nerd shit if we do the League of Useless Mascots.
See?
Legs. Well, thank you, Toph, for joining me tonight. Great recommendation. Great love for the great Gene Wilder. And that's the end of our show. So finger guns, my good friend.
Finger guns. Pew, pew.
Pow, pow, pow. All right, I'm ready when you are.